What's happening, everyone? I just got home from seeing the brand new Bong Joon-ho movie, Mickey 17, starring Robert Pattinson. Now, what is Mickey 17, you ask? Well, I'm glad you asked. You see, this movie is about a young man named Mickey Barnes who is having a rough go of it after a bunch of miscellaneous circumstances. Mickey takes a job on an expedition to colonize a new planet called Niflheim. Niflheim? Heim? I don't know. Regardless, they're going to colonize a brand new planet, and he takes on a job as an expendable. An expendable is a human being who is cloned after they die, doing an extremely dangerous job, with their consciousness being copy and pasted into the cloned body once they die. However, this company does an oopsie, and when they believe one of Mickey's incarnations, this being the 17th version, has died, they print out an 18th, except Mickey didn't die, so Mickey 17 goes home to find Mickey 18 in his place, and then hijinks ensue. This movie is portrayed as a dark sci-fi comedy, and I think it works very well. The movie as itself feels like a satire on America in general, specifically capital America, if you want to get down to the nitty-gritty. I think it does an excellent job of depicting this. Mickey literally being an expendable represents the generalized workforce of people that do not get paid enough, are not respected enough, and do the dirty work that keeps the country as a whole running. That's exactly what Mickey is. He does everything that allows this expedition to flourish, and he dies for it, paying the cost while everyone else is treated more human, more likable, and they're benefiting off of his sacrifices. It is exemplified through the fact that the main antagonist of the movie is a satirical take on Donald Trump, played by Mark Ruffalo. That's not the name of the character, but you get my point. That's what I'm saying. This guy is supposed to be a surrogate for Trump in this movie, and it works really well. I hated every time that he was on screen, and it did lead to some funny moments as well, but it generally just kind of like hurt to the core. It just made you, you just want to punch somebody on screen. That's how I felt every time he showed up and opened his big fat mouth. Hell, there's even a joke in the movie where he basically shows up on the Jimmy Kimmel Show. Now, I don't watch that kind of talk show television, but I'm curious if Trump has actually shown up on that show and it was like a direct parallel to one of those. So if you happen to know that, let me know in the comments down below. But to be honest, I don't really have many problems with Mickey 17, and I don't have that much to say about the movie because the only issue I had with it is that I wish it was longer. I feel like Mickey 17 would have been better off if it was a mini-series, not to add like an excessive amount of time. I think maybe 5 to 6 episodes, and this would have been able to cover everything that I think it needed to, because there are a few characters and plot points in the movie that pop in, not in an incoherent way. It flows within the movie, but they kind of just show up for the narrative significance, and then we move on. Like, there's a character in this movie that Mickey starts to grow close to, and they discover that there is a Mickey 17 and 18, which is a big problem because that is an illegal thing, but we don't really explore that all too much. They show up for the drama, and then they just disappear from the movie until the final scene of the movie for a joke. And I was like, what happened to you? I thought you were going to be significantly more important, but the movie went in a completely different direction after you were introduced, which is fine because that direction was extremely interesting, but it just made me want more of this character. A big problem that I felt it had is that they introduced this massive plot point and element that the science department in the movie has been working on and what they've been having Mickey experiment with the entirety of the film, but it comes clean out of left field. It's relevant to the narrative, but it doesn't make sense why it exists in it of itself, if that makes sense. Because the whole purpose of this expedition is to colonize the new Niflheim planet, right? And they talk a lot in the movie about how they need resources and food so that they can live there more comfortably. But then the science department is like, hey, we made this thing that has no functionality in anything of that sort, but we have it, and now it's a big plot point in the movie, which felt really weird. It would make more sense if they had more time and they're like, we were experimenting on doing this to create these crops, but then something went wrong and it resulted in us discovering this new thing, and now this new thing is going to be relevant to the end of the plot. But that's not really the case. They kind of just come out of nowhere and they're like, hey, we made Chemical X. I know I'm being very vague is because I don't want to spoil the movie because I want you guys to go and see it. But yeah, it kind of just came out of nowhere. They're like, hey, we made this Chemical X. And, now it's useful in the final act of the movie. Haha. And I'm like, oh, okay, all right. I'm rolling with the punches, but this is a bit surprising to me. And I really do wish we got more time to explore what was going on with Mickey. Because both of the Mickeys, that being 17 and 18, have different personalities from each other. And Robert Pattinson does a fantastic job portraying the differences between 17 and 18. But the problem is, we don't get an explanation as to why they act different from one another. The explanation we get at the beginning of the movie of how the cloning process works for Expendables is that they copy your memories before you go out and do a job. Then you die, and they copy those memories from the saved data brick that they have into the new body that they create for you. So it's basically like you never left. But the problem is that that should just be a direct copy and paste of the person's identity. It shouldn't alter their personality, but it does. They mentioned in the movie that multiple of the Mickeys that have come back between 1 through 18 have had different character flaws, with some being too clingy, some being crybabies, and this new Mickey being more aggressive than the one that we're following. And it's like, I get that you need to have them have different personalities because you want to show the difference between the two of them, so it's not like you have a carbon copy of the exact same character running around and you don't know which is which. I understand it from a narrative standpoint, but it felt like there should have been an explanation for why they act like this. So, I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Like, all of my complaints I just made are just like, I wish we had more time to explore these elements that didn't get enough time to be fleshed out in the movie that I would have liked them to be. But even with them not being fleshed out, the movie still functions very well. Like I mentioned earlier, it's not incoherent. The movie is well written and everything makes sense. It just leaves you with the feeling of longing. I guess that goes to show how much I enjoyed the movie and how much I think a lot of other people will enjoy the movie. It definitely makes you want more of it because you're like, oh, this is good. And I kind of wish you explored that because I like how you were dealing with everything else in the movie. So that kind of boils down how I feel about Mickey 17. I think it's a funny movie. I think it's well acted. There weren't any particular shots in the movie that I was like, wow, that is a beautiful cinematic shot that I'm awe-stricken by. So, that isn't like a thing that really hooked me. I was just more engaged with the acting, the story, and surprisingly enough, the editing. I really like the editing in this movie. There's a lot of montage sequences in the film, and I think they're edited pretty well together. So that's something that took me off guard. Usually editing isn't something that I notice all that well because I suck at it. But, that's just something that came to mind as I was watching the movie. So, yeah, all in all, Mickey 17, great movie. And it was a great introduction. I don't know what the hell happened there. It's a great introduction for me into Bong Joon-ho. I could have swore I said his name right at the beginning of the video, but whatever. It was a great introduction into his filmmaking because I haven't seen Parasite. I'm like the one person in the world who still hasn't watched Parasite. So this was my first movie by him that I've ever seen, and I thought it was fantastic. So I will have to go back one of these days and actually watch Parasite to see what all the hullabaloo was about. I mean, it won an Oscar for God's sake. It has to mean something, right? But yeah, all in all, my final thoughts, go see Mickey 17. It's a great movie, and there isn't really anything else out in theaters right now that you'll want to go see. So yeah, go see Mickey 17. Have a great time. Come back. Go to the comments, tell me how you enjoyed the video, and yeah, that's really about it. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope I sold you on the movie with my bits and pieces of ramblings, and without further ado, I'm the Innocent Villain. Remember, folks, you're innocent till proven villainous, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.